have you today. Thank you so much for agreeing to share your experience with ArcVida. Tell me, when you started ArcVida, how were you feeling before you started?
Well, honestly, I was feeling really depressed and really frustrated. I had been kind of struggling to find the right job for a few years and kind of bounced around to a lot of different things. And finally, kind of like the final straw was when I went and worked with a couple friends of mine. And that just turned out to be a really painful and frustrating experience. And I think it's like when I was disappointed by my friends, that really kind of put me over the edge. I was just really feeling more depressed than I have in years. Um, and, you know, and I've been unemployed for about 3 or 4 months before I started the ArcVida program. Um, and yeah, I guess talking about the next part of how I started feeling afterwards when I started getting into it is kind of the next question, right?
Yeah.
All right, ready.
So when you think about it, what do you feel like or think that you learned during this process of working with ArcVida?
Well, one of the things that really stood out about ArcVida was the fact that it taught me how to far better utilize the skills and experience and connections I already have. I always knew of myself as being a very good talker and good at sales, good at networking. And so, I wasn't sure what I would get out of a service that basically, teaches you how to network better to get a job. Um, what I quickly discovered was that there were all these obstacles and roadblocks kind of in myself um, that had prevented me from really using those innate talents to their fullest effect. And, you know, I, for instance, just learned a lot better how to share my own vulnerability. I've in all my networking and all my conversations, you typically had a tendency to not ask for help ever. And this was something that the ArcVida helped me to gain far better insights into what my strengths and weaknesses were, as well as giving me really giving me the push that I needed to kind of open up those vulnerabilities and ask for help. And that way, it really took what I already had and made me so much more effective at using it.
Yeah. So while you were doing the process, what made a big difference for you in getting to that, obviously landing your role, but what made a difference in learning to use your network and getting to that place?
Well, let me start with what originally sold me on the program. I was actually talking to you during our little orientation phone call where you were explaining how kind of the process of endlessly applying for jobs online and just getting rejected over and over and over again. That's so damaging to your emotional health, your psychological health. And and you were kind of talking about how in this program we wouldn't have to do that, and in fact would be part of a social network and weekly in-person group meetings or in-person video group meetings that would provide the emotional support that a person really needs to be able to keep up their confidence and keep up their momentum and really get things done in their job search. And so the most valuable things that I learned in the program were with those face-to-face group meetings where coaches would answer really specific questions I had and really help with breaking down all of my obstacles into small, tangible pieces that really felt like they were achievable, and that, the steps to accomplish it were very clear, so that, I could start knocking those down one at a time and gaining a greater and greater sense of momentum and confidence that this was really going to work.
So how did you end up using your network during this process?
Well, one of the great tips that I got at one point in the program was how to really make the most of my LinkedIn account. That really, it wasn't so much about doing kind of the uncomfortable process of essentially cold calling or reaching out to tons of people, but actually just better utilizing the network I already had. Relationships I didn't even realize would be helpful for me throughout the process. I, at one point when I was really confused about even who should I talk to next and what is the path to get from here to there, Alyssa gave me the great piece of advice that, I could just use LinkedIn as a resource to just look at the resumes of people who have similar positions to what I was interested in, and just look. I don't even have to ask. I can just look to see what are all the jobs that they had, right from the beginning all the way to get to where they are. And so I made a little Excel spreadsheet, and basically I went on LinkedIn, just typed in the role that I wanted as a search with the filter of people that were already my friends on there. And I actually pulled up a list of about 20 people who have at least some element of that in their career. And so I started making this list basically of just being able to assess what were the most common paths to get to where I would want to get to. And then I kind of narrowed it down to, okay, these people are the most similar to me and would have taken the most similar path to what I'd be interested in. Let me just start calling them. And sure enough, about maybe it was about a dozen phone calls. I finally reached out to a guy that I really barely knew. He was a regular at the restaurant I used to work at. And at some point we exchanged enough info to be able to be connected on LinkedIn. So I had no idea he was even in the type of real estate I was interested in, the type of industry I was interested in. And it was probably about 20 or 30 minutes into my call with him that we really realized how much we had in common and how much my skill set would really complement what they were doing at their company. And he just asked me on the spot. He said, "Hey, you know what? Why don't you come work here?" Which, is I suppose kind of the ArcVida dream, right?
It is the ArcVida preference that you get invited to apply. So tell us about the role you landed. What did you end up doing? Or what are you doing, I should say? You've been there, about 2 months?
Yes, yeah. So I've been working there for about 2 months now, and I'm working as a commercial real estate agent at this my friend's brokerage. And when I first started out the process, I really wasn't sure that I wanted to take a real estate agent type position, because those are typically commission only. And I really wanted, especially with how generally frustrated and insecure I felt, I just didn't feel like I could perform well enough really um, to make the income that I needed in a commission only job. And so I actually told my friend up front a couple times. I said, that's not really what I'm looking for right now. And he kept pursuing me for for about a couple weeks. And finally I said, you know what? Okay, I'll give it a month. And at this point, through ArcVida, through all the conversations with other people, I had started getting some other potential job leads and other friends that were saying, oh yes, I'd love to recommend you. I'd love to have you come in and apply at my company, that sort of thing. I started feeling that confidence that I needed to say something like, yeah, I'll just give this a month try. And if it doesn't work out, it's not going to affect me. It's not going to feel so crushing as it did last year or the year before that. And I, after a month of doing it, I realized, oh, wow, they really are as busy as he was talking about. They really are providing as much support as he was talking about. Just all in all, it really has been a real pleasure working there. And I think, all right, great. Let's give it let's give it more time. And and so far it just has continued to be increasingly positive and fruitful.
Nice. And tell us about the culture of this agency, and how does it align with your values and what you needed?
Well, one of the big things about it that initially attracted me to it is the fact that they are very entrepreneurial, very nimble, and they're involved in a lot of different aspects of real estate. They have their own design and construction team, their own property management team. They do both residential work as well as commercial work. And so being a very entrepreneurial person myself and someone who wants to constantly be learning new and different things, I realized that this would be an excellent opportunity to learn from a lot of different perspectives, hopefully get to meet and work with a lot of very talented and capable people in a lot of different areas, and eventually sort of build out my own sense of a team of people that I can rely on in doing my own work. Since real estate can be a very lonely solo operation unless you have people that that you can trust and go to time and time again for all the different things that you need them for. Once I actually started working there, I discovered the other huge reason why I'm staying is because the owner of the company is very active, very involved in it. He also is very entrepreneurial, and he has this incredible this incredible sense of generosity about him. Someone that he has said outright really loves to invest in his people and give his people the sorts of opportunities that they've just never had before. And the more I stay there and work there, the more I realize that he's really for real. He's probably the one boss that I've admired personally the most of anyone I've ever worked with. And that is a huge reason to stay.
Yeah, for sure. So how are you feeling now after you've gone through your search, you've started your job? How do you feel?
I mean, the biggest thing is just I feel so much more confident. I realize all the different sorts of obstacles that I might have to deal with or might still be dealing with, but just feel so much more capable of being able to overcome them. I'm very prone to depression and anxiety, and I was feeling very hopeless just like a year ago about my career. And now that I know that I have these tools, I have a great support network, I have just basically everything I would need to be able to get myself out of any similar situations in the future. And what I realized is one of the things that's very paralyzing is whenever you're in a situation where you feel like you have to make the perfect decision right now, and that and I would just kind of have that analysis paralysis where I'd just be weighing all the different options and I just wouldn't know which way to go because I just put so much pressure on myself for every little decision along the way until the point where I just wouldn't do anything. And then that became my biggest problem. Um, if you just have confidence, or you pick up the tools to develop the confidence to know that your future self will be able to handle any other problems that come your way, it just makes it a lot easier to kind of take that pressure off of today and be like, listen, I'm just going to pick whatever seems best right now, knowing that I will be able to fix things in the future. I'll be able to make it better. I'll be able to make it work. And that has been just a huge relief to be able to have that sort of kind of faith and reliance on myself. That are my decisions today going to be better, but my decisions and abilities in the future are only going to get stronger and better.
So what kind of person do you think ArcVida's service and program is good for?
I think that, at least for me, it seems to be incredibly good for people that just need that extra emotional support. That, hunting for a job is hard. It sucks. It drains you. And, sometimes you even get to the point where, whether you currently have a job or not, you are just feeling so helpless and hopeless and lost. And ArcVida was just so supportive in both providing the insights and advice and sort of like the tangible answers of what I should be doing and kind of help to better develop those skills, as well as just having a lot of elements in place to provide emotional support and a sense of camaraderie with everybody else that's looking. And then as you start to see your other people in your cohort continue to succeed and advance and do better, it gives you so much more hope and so much more momentum in what you're doing. Last year when I was feeling really depressed, I kind of got back in touch with my therapist and started doing therapy again to help with just the emotional side of things on the personal side. And honestly, ArcVida was almost like therapy for my career, helping to dispel all of the kind of cognitive fallacies of what I had been thinking and feeling about my career and how my job search was going and what my options and opportunities would be from there. And by kind of fixing those mistaken assumptions and feelings, all of a sudden it just opened up these floodgates of creativity and positivity and momentum.
So I'm kind of hearing you say that you had already gotten onto a path where you were working with a therapist and starting to feel emotionally better, and you were also already focusing on your career. So you felt like that combination meant that ArcVida, you found ArcVida at a good time. And so this idea is people are already focusing on their search and also on a path to feeling better, then the service would work for them. Is that, I don't want to, yeah. I'm asking you, is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, I would say that. I mean, whether or not, there are people who are, in therapy or just doing other things that are helping to get themselves going. Whether you're the type of person who, okay, you're starting out a new workout plan or a new diet or a new therapy plan or, new medication for what you're dealing with, that this eventually started feeling like ArcVida was just another set of tools, another set of connections, another support network for the other side of the problems and obstacles I was dealing with. And I learned to really rely on those people, both the coaches as well as the other people going through the program with me. And it, at least for me, that's what kind of created that whole 360-degree picture of how to advance my life.
So thank you so much, Richard, for joining us to talk about your experience and how it worked out. I am thrilled for you. I know your other coaches and cohort members are also thrilled for you. And just keep us posted. Let us know how it goes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really learned to look forward to our weekly and bi-weekly cohort meetings, because I just really loved sharing things with you and with you all. And your approval really ended up meaning a lot to me for all sorts of things in my life. So, it really was just had such a hugely beneficial impact on this past year. And I would gladly recommend it to anyone.
Well, thank you.